Hi, Dan.
What's up,
Guys,
Daniel?
hey, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for
We
coming
had,
on.
had Jesse on before, so it's nice to
Yes.
have you on as well.
Yeah, I think this is my first time on the show
Yeah,
here.
Jesse.
Oh, it was Jesse that was on before?
Yeah, Jesse's been
Oh,
on
okay,
quite a
okay.
few times. He loves it. So he was like, you should come on for this one, share some knowledge about the bonding curves. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We hear good things. Nick's obsessed with bonding curves. That's his whole shtick.
You have those.
Yeah, that's his new thing. No, I'm just kidding. He's been on that for a long time. So it's cool to see other companies, really embracing like pricing indexes. I call them DPI, like deterministic pricing indexes, or I get fancy with it, but I think bonding curve is like a real good word. It's cool. I mean, the mechanism, that's part of what attracted me to Nick in the first place, actually, was like working with bonding curves and Zap and oracles. But I mean, I'm the NFT component and what you guys are doing seems like super interesting. I watched some of the other streams. Really excited to hear what you guys got for today. And I appreciate.
Yeah, I do have a screen. I'll do a screen share here.
Sure.
So let me pull that up here. Let's see. This is my first time sharing the screen with you guys. So let's see if it's working here.
Great. Yeah.
Can you
full screen? If you're doing, there's an application. There's also a Chrome window specific.
Right.
So a few different options.
So I have something in my eye here, real quick.
All good.
All right. Can you see the presentation here?
Yeah, it looks like you have a slide presentation here.
That's good.
Okay.
Random, just a little of my eye here. All right. So yeah, this is a beautiful image from one of the videos that a fan made about the bonding curve. Actually, they made a whole video about one man's search for the bonding curve and basically unlocking and claiming the Aavegotchi. So a beautiful video made by the Defiant. If you guys haven't seen it, you should definitely go check that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, the curve is forever. This is kind of a mantra that we use in Aavegotchi, and kind of links back into our whole idea of the Dico powered by the bonding curve and how we're doing a continuous token sale of our ghost token. So our favorite mantra is the curve is forever. It's like this entity that exists, and it's doing its market making duty and minting and burning ghost for our users, for our community, for our ecosystem. So we're big fans of the bonding curve, and I hope this presentation can help everyone understand a little bit more why we picked the bonding curve, and also just what the bonding curve can do for different types of projects. Our project specifically is a Dico, a decentralized ICO, and we actually went with the Aragon fundraising suite that they created, where they incorporate the Dico using the bonding curve. But yeah, I didn't even realize until very recently that Zap actually was the ones who created the term. I always thought it was Bancor, but
yeah, it was a long time. They've been using the bonding curve, or some people refer to also, like, we have like Bezier splines and things like that. You can get into like linear algebra, your token supply and price balance. I would say just for the presentation, if you're able to full screen that application,
okay, sure,
there might be an option to do that.
Or
I don't know how to get rid of this presentation.
Okay, let's see. I don't really use Adobe.
Yeah, I'm not quite familiar, but otherwise it's okay. We can see that. You might be able to just hide that sidebar.
No. Yeah, I don't know how to get rid of the sidebar. I don't know.
There's a little arrow about halfway down the screen.
Oh yeah.
So if we just probably
cool.
There we go. That's a little bit better. Not quite full screen, but I think that'll work for what you intend to share with us.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I'll leave you to the
bonding curve.
Here.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bonding curve, if you guys aren't familiar, is basically, it's a mathematical formula that calculates the price of the underlying asset based on the reserve or the pool balance, and also the token supply that's in it. And I won't really go into the math because all that has been covered multiple times, but basically it's essentially a smart contract automated market maker that allows users to buy and sell the underlying asset, the native token, with another reserve token, and it essentially just it replaces the old method of the order book. So we're gonna go into a little bit about the there it is. This is our R curve here. We kind of took this model up here and we wanted to make it look a little bit cooler. So if you go on to the Aavegotchi UI, we've actually created this UI for the bonding curve where our users can kind of see the slope of the curve and they can get a feel for exactly where on the curve we are. So when we first launched the Aavegotchi bonding curve, we opened it at 0.1 DAI, and it's gone up to 0.64. Well, that's kind of an older slide, but it's about around that price as well. So our users have really enjoyed kind of watching this process and being able to understand with certainty like where we are on the curve and being able to calculate the supply of ghosts based on the number of ghosts that calculate the price of ghosts based on the number of ghosts that exist in supply. It has been there has been some controversy about it. We'll get into that a little bit later, but overall, we've really enjoyed our experience with the curve, and here's kind of the reasons why. We'll go into that in a second. But quickly, real quick, here's some other projects that are also using it. So a lot of people don't even really realize that they're using a bonding curve like under the hood. So we got obviously Curve uses one, Uniswap uses one as well, and then Aragon was one of the first ones to actually use it as a Dico model. They created their Aragon fundraising suite that is basically a comprehensive Dico decentralized ICO model around a bonding curve, and they used it for the ANT to ANJ transition. So people were able to send their ANT into the bonding curve, and it would automatically give them ANJ in a proportion. And I think there's an interesting aspect of the bonding curve, which is called the reserve ratio or the connecting weight. And there's that they get the two terms get confused quite a bit, but in Aragon they call it the connecting weight, and it's basically the ratio of the underlying asset to the market cap. And for us, we actually went with a 33% reserve ratio or connecting weight. So our users can look at that and they can kind of judge what the market cap of Aavegotchi will be, or of Ghost token will be, when there's a certain number of tokens that have been minted so far. So Aragon has used the bonding curve. Aavegotchi, obviously. DXDAO was actually it's still an existing one. It's a really interesting model because they, unlike us or unlike Aragon, they actually limit they have a lower reserve ratio, and contrasting with the connecting weight. For them, what the reserve ratio means is that for every, let's say, 100 of their tokens that get purchased, when you try to sell back into the bonding curve, which is like a core feature of the bonding curve, being able to buy freely and sell freely from it, when you sell back into the bonding curve, you actually only get 10% of your original funds back. So they have basically what they do is they take 10% of your asset when you buy into the bonding curve, and they put it into the reserve, and the other 90% goes to their DAO. So it's a very, very strange model from what I've seen, because it kind of decentivizes people from selling, which I guess is kind of their reason behind that. But with Aavegotchi, we went with 100% ratio for reserve ratio, which means that people can buy and sell from the curve with very little slippage, not having to worry about buying today and not being able to sell liquid tomorrow. For us, we really believe that the bonding curve, the power of it is being able to have this on-demand liquidity, this instant liquidity, without having to worry about complicated order books or centralized exchanges. So kind of the underlying mechanism of the bonding curve, you see it's got instant liquidity. You don't have to rely on order books. It's got a dynamic token supply where you mint and burn the tokens as needed by whatever ecosystem you're in, or whatever the requirements of your project are. And also, one of our favorite aspects of it is the radical transparency. Like, you can see on the blockchain exactly when the market maker, the contract, is minting and burning. And for when we're educating our users on this aspect of the bonding curve, a lot of people think that it's actually the team that is like selling back into our users. We have to kind of educate them and say it's not us as the team, it's the market maker that is selling these tokens. They feel like there's some like price suppression happening, but it's actually not. It's really just the market maker doing its job of minting new tokens when people buy, and burning those tokens and selling them when the users sell their tokens. So a couple misconceptions about the bonding curve there, but in general, it's very transparent. You can see exactly who is buying, who is selling, and the amounts, and and all of that on the blockchain. So I think it's a great improvement to traditional exchanges where you have the order books, because it really enables much deeper liquidity uh, with basically on demand instant liquidity. So I'm going to get a little bit into the Dico model here. I've mentioned it a few times, but what exactly is the Dico? The first time I heard about the Dico was back when Vitalik tweeted about it. Actually, I think this was his second tweet about Dicos, but um, Dico is a model that he wrote about in an article. I think it was in 2017 or 2018. And basically, it's a community-funded ICO where you have much more accountability of the funds that are held by the team. So in a traditional ICO, you have a team, and they create a contract. People send the funds to the contract, but basically after that process is complete, there's really no accountability for the team. The team can run off to Malta and do whatever they want with the funds. So the Dico is a new model that emerged after all the craziness of the 2017 ICO craze. And basically what it has is just like an ICO, there's users send their funds to the contract, but the big difference is, instead of the team receiving all of those funds immediately, you have this bonding curve mechanism where people are sending their funds to the bonding curve, they're getting the token, but their reserve token that the users are sending to get the native token is locked within that bonding curve. So what this does is it allows the bonding curve to have a mechanism called the tap, where the founding team, in this case us as the Aavegotchi team, each month it's each block, a small amount of funds are available for the team to withdraw and use for whatever purpose we need it for. So in a way, it's kind of like a Kickstarter, where the people are sending funds and they're giving it to the team to use, but those people, instead of sending the funds and having to wait for the product, they can actually get their funds out whenever they want. They can sell their token back into the bonding curve, and they can receive their underlying token back. So for us as a team, it gives a great amount of stability, because we know as long as there's funds in that reserve, we don't have to worry about going out and doing a lot of fundraising, or worrying about our funds going to dry up. We do our work, and we build our product and our community, and we can see we have a stable source of funding that is coming in. And I think this is actually quite a big breakthrough in tokenomics, because a lot of the projects that we see on the marketplace, they're funded by the native token of that project. So if you look at something like Sushi Swap, where the project they create this sushi token, and the team has a bunch of the sushi token, And in order to pay for development, they have to go back and they have to sell that token and basically into the community and hope that someone buys it, which usually leads to price depression. It leads to a lot of selling pressure. And actually, I'm going to skip to this slide. So the benefits of the Dico are really that we have accountability for us as a team, where the community can see exactly how those funds are being used, and they also know that we can't rug pull them. There's no way for us to rug pull because the funds are basically locked within that bonding curve. So the other aspect is that the DAO itself, which is basically in control of this bonding curve market maker, the DAO is able to vote to increase or decrease the amount of funds that are coming out of that tap. So currently, when we launched our Dico, we put it at 50,000 DAI per month that was able to be withdrawn from us from the team, and those funds are coming from the bonding curve reserve. So after about a month, we made a community vote and a proposal to the community to say, can we increase that to 100,000? Because there's lots of, as many people know, development is expensive. There's audits that need to happen. When we're deploying our contracts onto mainnet, it's going to cost quite a bit because we have all this on-chain art and all these expensive things to do. So really, 100K is a good spot for us as the Aavegotchi team to ensure that we have enough funds to get through our first phase of development. But the community could also propose to increase it more, or if they think we're not doing a good job, they could make a proposal to actually lower the tap back to another 50K or 60K or whatever. So it's really powered by the community, which is exactly what we want with Aavegotchi. We want the community to really have a say and have ownership of this project alongside of us. Aavegotchi is a community-owned game, and we want to work together extremely closely with the DAO and with the community to really make sure that everyone's on the right track and everyone is working together to create this game. And finally, the idea of the separation of concerns that I was kind of talking about earlier, where the founding team, we are paid in the underlying token, which is DAI in this case. We're not paid in Ghost. So instead of, if you think about traditional projects where like Sushi Swap or all these different food tokens that were so popular back in the summer, all those projects were basically just minting their own token and then they were selling it to pay for things, which I don't think that's really a sustainable ecosystem. It's very, very difficult to create one of those, to bootstrap one of those ecosystems from scratch. So I think having a separation of concern where us as the founding team are getting paid in DAI from the bonding curve reserve really makes sense, because it allows us to do our work without really impacting the having to sell our tokens back into the bonding curve. Obviously, the community also is happy because they're able to hold our token, and if there's price appreciation, they get to enjoy that, and everyone is along for the ride. But you don't have this extreme pressure of the team trying to pay for different development things by selling the native token. So I think those are the main benefits I see of the Dico, and all of those benefits are made possible by the bonding curve. None of this was really possible before the invention of the bonding curve. So hat tip to Zap and the team for creating that. It's really, really amazing. All right, so you can see here we have the Ghost token is the native token of Aavegotchi. I kind of have a picture of it here. Sorry, I'm kind of losing my voice here. So if you look at Ghost, we call it the eco governance token of Aavegotchi, and basically what you do with Ghost is you buy portals with it, you buy wearables, consumables, all these different items that are crucial to the game aspect of Aavegotchi are purchased with Ghost. And we actually have some interesting tokenomics that I'll go into about what happens to the ghost when it's used to buy these different things. But to put it briefly, Ghost is the eco-governance token. People use it to buy things. They can also get rewarded with the Ghost token, and they can also use Ghost token to do governance of the protocol. So I mentioned earlier that users can they can vote whether or not to increase the tap or decrease the tap, and all those votes are happening with the Ghost token. You have to have Ghost token in order to create those votes. So that's a little bit about the Aavegotchi Ghost token. And yeah, we are a Dico using a bonding curve, and very one of the first projects to really experiment really deeply with this model. So it's very experimental, something perfect. I know this presentation is for a hackathon. So if you're looking into experimenting with this, Aragon fundraising is a great way to kind of get your hands dirty a little bit. There's lots of documentation about it. And yeah, here is our UI that we created for the bonding curve. So over here you see the bonding curve. You see the amount of reserve that's in it. You see the curve issuance, which is basically how much has been created via the curve. And then you see the total supply here. Total supply is higher than the curve because when we initially launched the curve, we had already done a private sale and a pre-sale 2 rounds before that. The private sale was basically to ensure that we had enough funding no matter what happened. And so we did sell some Ghost at a lower price, around this price here. And then the pre-sale was very small. It was only 500,000 Ghosts, but it was used to ensure that there was kind of a bootstrap liquidity in the curve. So when people started buying from the curve, there was already 500,000 Ghosts or 50,000 DAI within the bonding curve reserve to begin with. So here you can see we have the buying and selling UI. Our users can see how much DAI they have, how much Ghost they have unlocked. And over here is where when they type in amount of DAI that they want to basically buy with, we'll use the bonding curve function to kind of estimate the price and how much Ghost they will be receiving, and also what the slippage amount is. And one kind of interesting aspect of our bonding curve is that Aragon fundraising is that it uses a batching system. And most bonding curves do not use this. I think Mesa also has a batching system. But basically, what this prevents is front running, because if a typical bonding curve has quite a large issue, of quite a serious issue with front running by bots, because what happens is someone places an order, the bonding curve tells them the estimate of how much Ghost they'll receive, and they perform the transaction. But just as that transaction is happening in the same block, a front-running bot will come in and it will buy it for a little bit more, and then when the user's price will go up, and the bot will sell it basically back to the user for a small arbitrage profit. So what the batching system prevents is exactly that process. You can't front run the curve, because if the bot tries to get into the same block as you, it's going to be getting the same price as you. So it won't be able to sell it back to you in the same transaction. And there's other ways to get around front running, but this is one of the simplest ways, I think, and it's quite effective. We haven't had any issues with front running on our curve, because the bots they'll be getting the same price as the user in that transaction, in that same block. So yeah, we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but why would you want to do a bonding curve Dico? Because you can have transparent price discovery. The community can easily follow all the price movements. You'll have always on liquidity. I think one of our biggest wins was not having to go out and basically beg exchanges to list our token and pay very expensive listing fees as a project, because we didn't need to. We had our always on source of liquidity, very deep source of liquidity that anyone could get our token from. So we didn't have to go out and do the whole activity of going out and reaching out to exchanges and asking them to list us. They actually came to us and asked us to list on their exchanges. So I think that's quite an interesting way, kind of a turn of events that was very beneficial for our project. And again, we have this idea of the separation of concerns. We're paid in DAI, and we don't have to go and sell Ghost in order to pay for development expenses. A common question that we do get is, this is kind of comes from a lack of understanding about the bonding curve, is this idea that, won't infinite supply prevent price appreciation? And obviously the mathematical formula of the bonding curve says that as the supply goes up, that the price also goes up. The key thing to understand here is that it won't prevent price appreciation, but it does take more overall funds in order to move the price up or to move it down. So it's not like a typical token where it has maybe a fixed supply or sometimes even a deflationary supply, where anyone can as a large stakeholder, they can control a large amount of that token and they can kind of manipulate the price without really having to control that much in terms of USD. But for Ghost, it does take more money, more funds overall to move the price up or down. But that doesn't mean that you're preventing price appreciation. It just means it takes a little bit more to do that. And we set our connecting weight, as I said earlier, to 33% because we feel that this is a kind of a more stable connecting weight. As later on, as the price gets higher and higher, the slippage on the curve starts to increase quite dramatically. So if you go down to a 20% or even a 10% connecting weight, the curve becomes very steep. It's very steep. So as you get further and further along the curve, the slippage on the curve gets extremely high. So it becomes actually harder for new entrants to purchase from the bonding curve. So we did a lot of experimentation with different reserve ratios, different connecting weights, and we found that 33% was kind of the sweet spot for our project. There may be other projects that would prefer lower or maybe even higher, but it really is up to the project kind of to decide what the ideal connecting weight is for them. So those are kind of that's the basic overview. I don't know how much time we have here, but real quick, there are some other advanced tokenomic things that you can do with the bonding curve that are quite interesting. Recently, we released a new announcement about how the Ghost that goes into our sales is going to be redistributed. Basically, we have this thing called a portal that costs 100 Ghost for our players to purchase. And of those 100 Ghost, we are redistributing that Ghost back into 4 different areas. One of them is back to player rewards so when people play our game, they'll be rewarded in Ghost. Part of it's going to the team, part of it's going to the DAI. But one very interesting part is that we're actually burning 33% of the Ghost that is used in all those transactions. And typically, I'm not a huge proponent of burning in a typical project, because what that actually does, especially if you have a fixed supply of your token, you're literally just burning your token and destroying supply, destroying value. But for us, for our project, the value of Ghost is actually the DAI that is trapped in the reserve, that is basically there waiting for the Ghost to come in and to be sold and then to retrieve it from the reserve. So when you burn Ghost, what you're actually doing is you are trapping that DAI in the reserve. It's like if you had a key and you need that key to open a door that would allow the DAI to come out. But if you burn that key, the DAI is basically staying there in the curve. So what this actually will do over time, if you don't take that die out of the curve, it's actually just going to increase the connecting weight over time because the reserve ratio will be changing. There'll be more die than there originally was in terms of proportion. So this actually opens a lot of interesting different tokenomics mechanisms that we can use. One of them is that basically what we can do is we can use liquidity, we can use that trap die, and we can pull it out using the tap mechanism that I mentioned earlier. We can say instead of 100,000 die per month, let's up it to 200,000, and then we can do more ghost rewards back to our users. We can say, okay, let us take this die from the curve, and then we're going to basically buy it back. We're going to use that die to buy back ghost from the curve. So I like to call this the double dip tokenomics, because our players, our users have initially sent die to the curve and they've gotten ghost. They've sent that ghost back to the ecosystem, and 33% of it has been burned, which leaves basically 33% more die in the reserve, which can be then pulled out using the tap mechanism and then used to buy more ghost back from the curve. So it's a very interesting tokenomics maneuver, and something that I'm really excited to see going forward once we have our sales that are going to be happening from our portals and other different aspects of the Aavegotchi game. So buybacks are going to be really interesting to watch, and I'm super excited to see how that affects the overall appreciation of the price and just the overall tokenomics of the curve in general. So yeah, token bonding curve powered Dicos, decentralized ICOs, are really the cutting edge, perfect for something if you want to experiment in a hackathon. There's a great suite called Aragon Fundraising that you can use to do that. There is a little bit of setup and work that needs to be done. So if anyone has any questions about that, I can feel free to. I think I have my Twitter here somewhere, maybe not. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter, Coder Dan. That's with 3 N's, Coder DANNN, and I can help out if you have any questions, about how to set up Aragon Fundraising, or how to set your curve up, or anything like that. Feel free to hit me up, and I can try to help you out with that. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing to work on in a hackathon, and feel free to, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me. I can try to help out. And if you want to learn more about the bonding curve, we do actually have a page on our wiki, which is wiki.aavegotchi.com/curve. Over here, you can see the bonding curve. And quite a bit of information about it there. So yeah, thank you guys.
Hey, thank you very much. Yeah, I love the picture, by the way. It's really nice. Yeah, I think it was an excellent presentation going over bonding curves and some of the projects that use the bonding curves, and why they're so necessary. I think, like you mentioned, with the front running and some other aspects as well. So it definitely plays into a lot of what we're seeing in a lot of current DeFi projects and different things coming out. So it's definitely nice to see kind of like a whole ecosystem building around that specifically. And then tying it into older systems and newer systems as well. It looks like this is the last presentation of the stream. So I want to thank you for closing out with us for the 10.5 hours we've been on today. We have a few more hours tomorrow to go over a couple more workshops and the final judging for the hackathon. It is a live stream, so a little bit difficult to show people in a room together at this time, since it is online. So we do have a Discord where that is happening for the Blockchain Center, and we'll go ahead and share those links after the stream. But again, I want to thank you for being on for the first time. I know we hear a lot from
thank you, Blockchain Center, for having me. Yep.
And have a great night, everyone, and I'll see everyone tomorrow for the final day of the hackathon. And have a good night, Dan.
All right. Thank you, guys. See ya. Have a good night.